The following video contains a fictional narrative created solely for storytelling and entertainment purposes. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or real events is purely coincidental. This work, including all audio, text, related content, is the sole property of the author and is fully protected under copyright law. No part of this material may be copied, reproduced, or used in any form without the author's express written permission. This is part 2 of Secrets of a First Lady. Ezra pulled the SUV up to the Arlington Luxury Hotel downtown. He stopped in front of the doors, and a bellhop came and let Genesis down from the back passenger seat. "I will call you once I am done with my meeting," Genesis said. Ezra nodded back silently in response. She removed her church hat and placed it in the back seat of the SUV. She did not want to draw too much attention to the fact that she had just left church. She kept her oversized shades on and readjusted them on her face. The bellhop took her gently by the elbow and led her inside to the front desk, where she checked in under the name Lillian Green. She tipped the bellboy and declined his invitation to further assist her. She walked to the elevator and stepped inside. She watched the numbers as they slowly went up to the 17th floor. She stepped out of the elevator and found her room number 1701. When she entered the luxurious suite, she was impressed by its grandeur. This was not her first time staying at this particular hotel, but she loved their exquisite attention to detail. There was champagne chilling on ice, chocolate-covered strawberries beautifully arranged on a platter, rose petals beautifully sprinkled on the bed. She dimmed the lights and sat on the edge of the bed and removed her stilettos. It felt so good to take her shoes off, as they were purely for looks and not for comfort. She removed her shades, placed them in her purse, and placed the purse on the chaise lounge. She took off her suit jacket and laid back on the bed. Moments later, she heard a knock at the door. She opened the door, and a big, bright smile illuminated her face as she gazed upon Deacon Hank Goins. There he stood, tall, dark, and handsome. He flashed a handsome smile that formed a dimple on his cheek. She reached and took him by the hand and pulled him inside and closed the door behind him. They embraced and began to kiss passionately. A short time later, their clothes were strewn all over the floor, and the harmonious sounds of two people passionately showing their deep affection for one another was unmistakable and loud. Before long, Genesis fell asleep in Hank's arms. She always felt safe and secure with him. She wished that they did not have to meet discreetly in this fashion, but she knew that if they were found out, there would be a lot to lose. She opened her eyes about an hour later and looked at Hank, who was already staring at her, watching her sleep. "You were watching me?" she asked him and giggled. She felt like she was 16 years old all over again when she was with him. He was 10 years her junior, but his maturity made him seem much older. When they were together, age was never really an issue. "Genesis," Hank said tenderly but seriously. "I love you," he said. Genesis was speechless. These were words that she had not heard from Malcolm in at least 5 years. It wasn't that she did not have feelings for him, but they had agreed that they would not fall in love with each other. Their trysts were more than just a roll in the sack. They had more meaning than that. However, she thought they had agreed not to let their emotions get in the way of things. She had developed feelings for him too, but fought back the urge to tell him that she loved him. Instead, she quickly sat up. Hank turned on his side and looked at her seriously. "What's the matter?" he asked, and then put his hand on her bare back. "It's time for me to take a shower," she replied, and then stood up to walk toward the bathroom. Hank quickly jumped out of the bed and stood in front of her before she could get to the bathroom. He always smelled so incredibly good to her. She could not look him in the eyes, but turned her head away from his. "Well, I know my breath doesn't stink," he said in response to her turning her face away from him. They both paused, and then she laughed nervously. "No, it's not that," she said. "Then, what is it?" he asked her. Though she had feelings for Hank, and he made her feel things in ways that Malcolm never had, At the end of the day, being married to Malcolm afforded her a certain lifestyle and prestige that Hank just simply could not give her right now. She knew it made her look materialistic, but she was not willing to throw away the lifestyle that she led. "It's because I'm not rich," he said as if reading her mind. Her silence spoke volumes, and she knew that it did. "Baby, I'm sorry," she simply said, and looked away again. He stepped aside and let her go to the bathroom and didn't say anything else. "I understand more than you know," he said. "You can go and take your shower now." He then went and popped the bottle of champagne, then poured himself a glass, gave cheers to the air, and then drank it quickly. "Might as well not let this go to waste," he said while pouring himself another glass. Genesis knew that she had hurt him deeply. She did care about him, but she had to compartmentalize things in her life. That was how she had learned how to survive different situations in her life. She entered the bathroom and then stepped into the shower. The next morning, Genesis was in a sour mood. The previous evening, she had arrived home before Malcolm had finished his meeting at the church. She waited up for him. He arrived home just after midnight. She intentionally wanted to start a fight with him. Her intention was to get him to buy her a new tennis bracelet and Louis Vuitton purse. She would usually start arguments with him and act as if she was really angry with him about them, but it was only a strategy to make him feel bad so that she could get new, expensive gifts. "Where have you been?" she immediately demanded upon his entrance into their master bedroom. He did not respond, but instead let out a long sigh and walked into the bathroom while removing his tie. She became more suspicious when she heard him turn on the shower. When he came out of the shower and walked into their bedroom with a towel around his waist, Genesis took in the view of him. His body could rival that of any 25-year-old young man. He kept himself in excellent shape. He did not know that Genesis had sniffed his suit after he had gotten into the shower. She smelled his expensive cologne, but she also smelled traces of a strange perfume. That perfume did not belong to her. She had rummaged through his pockets, but they had no telltale evidence. She had peeked through his wallet as well, but nothing stuck out to her. She hopped back into the bed before he had come out of the shower. Once he had on his night clothes, he climbed into bed without saying anything to her. He turned his back to her and turned off the lamp. She immediately turned her lamp on. He was not going to get out of this easily if she had anything to do with it. "What church meeting lasts this late?" she demanded. "Genesis," Malcolm said with a long sigh. "I really don't have time for this tonight," he continued. She laughed loudly. "Well, make time then," she snapped back. They both went back and forth, and their voices rose louder and louder. She told him to get out of their room and to sleep on the couch. The boys, Jean and Grant, overheard the argument. This was a common occurrence in their household. Neither of them got out of their beds to check things out. They could clearly see that their parents no longer cared for one another as they used to. And they knew that their parents were putting on an act to the public about their marriage. They heard Malcolm slam the bedroom door to his and Genesis' room, and then loudly storm down the hallway into the den. They heard the TV turn on from the den, and the volume was raised up very loudly. At breakfast this morning, Petra, their cook, had prepared a full feast complete with blueberry pancakes, yogurt with fresh fruit and granola, turkey breakfast sausage links, beautiful fluffy and buttery scrambled eggs, and fried potatoes. They had coffee and tea and juice for their beverage selection. "Good morning, Mrs. Gordon," Petra greeted her. "Morning, Petra," Genesis replied flatly. "I need my coffee this morning." "Yes, miss," Petra replied as she quickly walked to grab a mug and poured the hot, dark brew into it. "French vanilla almond milk creamer?" Petra asked, while holding the bottle of creamer in her hand. "Not today," Genesis said, in a clippy tone while waving Petra away with her hand. Petra brought the mug of hot coffee to Genesis and quickly stepped back after placing it next to Genesis. Petra knew that when Genesis was in one of her moods, she had to tread lightly so she would not get her head bitten off. "Where is everybody?" Genesis demanded. "Mr. Gordon left for his morning run," Petra replied, "and the boys are still sleeping." Almost immediately after Petra had answered her, Malcolm entered the kitchen. He had worked up a good sweat and seemed to be in a better mood than she was. Genesis did not like that. She glared at him and proceeded to drink her coffee without speaking to him. She knew that giving him the silent treatment often got her what she wanted from him. She wasn't even really that mad, but she had to make it appear so to get what she wanted. "Petra, make me a plate," Genesis ordered. "I want some of everything." Petra prepared a beautiful plate with a little of everything on it and gave her a yogurt, fruit, and granola parfait on the side. Genesis did not pray over her food. She rarely did, even though she was married to a pastor. She began to eat while watching Malcolm out of the corner of her eye. Malcolm took some of the fruit and mixed it with yogurt and protein powder and ice and juice and blended himself a smoothie. He stood in place drinking the smoothie as if he was in deep thought. "Mr. Gordon, would you like anything else?" Petra asked. He shook his head no and gave Petra a light kiss on the forehead. Genesis cringed when she saw how sweet and friendly Malcolm was with their staff. She did not believe in treating them too nice because she felt that doing so could cause them to become too familiar and comfortable with her, and she knew that if that happened, that would only create disrespect. She had to let them know who was in charge. Petra giggled and grabbed Malcolm's hand with both of her hands and squeezed it. Genesis knew that she had to interrupt this disgusting exchange between the two of them. "Malcolm, dear," she said, faking a sweet tone, "I need to see you in the library, please." Malcolm hesitated, yet he did not look at her. "Sure," was all he said. Once they were in the library and the doors were closed, Genesis whipped around and went in for the verbal attack. "You don't even speak to me this morning," she demanded. "I really don't have time for this," Malcolm said in exasperation. "We are back to you not having time again," Genesis said hotly. "You seem to have time for everyone else." Malcolm rolled his eyes up to the ceiling and put his face in both of his hands. "You are impossible," he said, and then sat down on a chair. She just knew that she had him where she wanted him. She was getting ready to make her request for her bracelet and purse, but he held up his hand and stopped her. He looked down at his hands in front of him as if he had a lot to say but didn't want to. "What is that supposed to mean?" Genesis continued goading him. She knew what he meant. She was not stupid. She just knew how to work him and break him down to get what she wanted. "Genesis," he said, "tell me what it is that you want from me." "Before you answer that," he said seriously, "let me say something." He told her that he was tired of them pretending to love each other publicly when it was no longer the truth. He was tired of their fights, and he was tired of the tension. "I want a divorce," he said. Though Gene was not his biological son, he said he would still be a part of his life. He said that he knew that he would be financially responsible for Grant and that he would give her a nice settlement so that she could live comfortably. Hearing these words did not sadden Genesis, but instead they made her downright mad. How dare he pull the rug from under her like this? "You got another thing coming," Genesis replied, and left him in the library without saying another word. She knew she had to think quickly because she was not going to have everything that she helped build to be handed over to another heifer. She was going to make him regret those words. She went into their bedroom and pulled out her cell phone. She found the contact that she was looking for and placed a call. The phone was picked up on the other end. "I need to see you," was all she said. After the other person's response, she said, "I will be there within the hour." Be sure to check out part 3 of Secrets of a First Lady. If you have enjoyed this video, take a moment to subscribe to Purple Rose Studio. Also, drop a comment on your thoughts about this story and like this video. Share this video with your family and friends so they can take some time to enjoy an entertaining story. Come back real soon.